Hey everyone, it's Shari Weiss, also known as the Teen Drama Whore. I realized that I've never done any kind of introductory video on YouTube before, and I wanted to tell you about who I am, what Teen Drama Whore is, why I love the teen dramas, and kind of just set the stage for what I'm going to be posting here in the future. I'd like to give a shout out to my friend Leslie. She's the one that really encouraged me to start filming videos and see what happens. So I'm giving it a shot, and we'll see how it goes. So here are some things to know about me. I'm a diehard teen drama fan. It's why I'm called Teen Drama Whore. I really can't even tell you how and when I came up with that name. It's something I've just called myself for, maybe 15 years now, if that's even possible. But for those who don't understand what it means, I liken it to the way you would call somebody a video game junkie. That means they're obsessed with video games, right? Or you would call somebody who loves to shop and buy new clothes a clothes horse. And then you would call somebody who's obsessed with shoes a shoe whore. So why not call somebody obsessed with teen dramas a teen drama whore? It just makes sense, right? So to me, it was a nickname that I kind of used for myself to show, man, I'm obsessed with teen dramas. This is the passion of my life. How did that passion begin? Well, it began at a really young age. I wasn't even 9 years old, and I know that sounds so crazy. Maybe some of you can relate, but now that I'm older, I think it's so crazy because some of it is risque material, and it's hard to believe that an 8-year-old would be watching shows about boyfriends and sex and drugs and betrayal. Even though that they were about teens, they were played by adult actors, and I wasn't even double digits yet. And yet, I fell in love with a show called Beverly Hills 90210. Now, that premiered on October 4th, 1990. I was 3 years old then. But just a few 5 years later, I started watching myself, which is just really crazy. I remember the first time I saw a part of the show was I was at my cousin's house, and I think we had to be with a babysitter because I can't imagine, our moms who are identical twins would ever let us watch this. And I remember seeing part of the season 5 episode Up in Flames, which is obviously most notable for the fire. And that's when Kelly is burned in the fire with Allison. I just had this image in my head of people running out of the burning house during the party and the fire trucks arriving, and Ray, who I didn't even know was Ray at the time, being covered in ash because he was rescuing people as he made his way out of the building, and Steve was crying over Kelly. Of course, I didn't know their names at the time, but I guess I was intrigued enough, and I don't even know what happened next. Again, this was season 5, happened in, I guess that episode aired in the fall of 94 because it was before Christmas. Fast forward to season 6, which aired in 1995 and 1996, and I somehow became a regular viewer. Again, this was first seeing a clip at 8, a regular viewer at the age of 9. And let's remember what season 6 storylines were. For example, it was Kelly on cocaine. And I was watching that at 9 years old, and I got sucked in. And I even remember some weeks my mom would watch with me. Not questioning her judgment. I'm very grateful from where I sit today. But it started becoming this ritual for me where every Wednesday night from 8 to 9, I was watching 90210. If there was ever a reason I couldn't watch, I was using the VCR and I was taping 90210. I would spread out my blanket. At the 8:30 commercial break, I would always go down to the kitchen and get raspberry sorbet. That was my favorite dessert treat to have at home. Still is. And I would eat it during the second half of the show. And then the show would end, and there would always be a commercial break before they would show the promo for next week. So I would go brush my teeth, and that way after the promo, I could go right to bed because I had elementary school the next morning. And this is what I was doing while, I still watch kids shows at the same time. It's not like, my tastes were sophisticated or anything or inappropriate, but I was definitely the only kid my age that I knew that watched this show. So now let's jump from 96 to 1998. That is when Dawson's Creek debuted in January of 1998. And I was so offended. I was like, what is this show that is trying to copy 90210 and steal its fans and its audience? This is not cool. Of course, now I see that they aren't actually that comparable. Yes, they're both teen dramas. They have love triangles, things like that. 90210, of course, was about rich kids in Beverly Hills and their trials and tribulations. And Dawson's Creek was about mainly middle-class families in Boston, Massachusetts. And then, of course, by 1998, we were in season 8 of 90210, and they were out of college, and Dawson's Creek was starting with kids in high school. So they weren't actually overlapping as much as, like, I was upset about. And I didn't really want to tune in. I felt like I'd be betraying 90210 and showing disloyalty if I watched this new show that was coming in to infringe on its audience. And I don't know how or when that changed. But let's now go to, let's say, 2005, 2006. I'm a freshman in college at Northwestern University, which is just outside Chicago. And by this point, I had started watching a little bit of Dawson's Creek through syndication. It was airing in reruns on TBS. And I had started VCRing, that's a weird thing to say, when I was home in New York. I'm from Long Island, so I was catching up on the show that way. And then in my dorm room, I would watch. I had classes that, maybe started at 11 a.m. so I could watch the 10 a.m. broadcast. And I started seeing all Dawson's Creek, and I fell in love with Pacey and Joey. And now that I think about it, so this is 2005, 2006. I actually watched the series finale of Dawson's Creek in 2003. Cried over it because it's a very sad finale. Before I had even seen a majority of the series. That's kind of crazy. But I eventually saw every episode multiple times, and I fell in love with that as well. And 2003 is an interesting year because in May, Dawson's Creek ended. In August, the OC premiered, and then in September, One Tree Hill premiered. So we had 2 teen dramas coming onto the air at the same time. And the OC did something unique. They premiered in August before the traditional fall TV season started because Fox would air the World Series, and that would mean they couldn't have their normal shows being broadcast because they were showing who was ever competing for the MLB championship. So they always had to make interesting scheduling decisions about when they would premiere seasons or shows, when would they preempt and things like that. Would they delay debuting a new show until after the World Series in November? Well, rather than wait till November, they actually decided to start the OC in August so it would have time to build an audience. And that trick clearly worked on me. They aired the first 7 episodes of the series, which ended with a cliffhanger, which is obviously the ideal thing to get viewers hooked and suck them in. And then it came back after the World Series, and I watched live every week. This is a show that I did watch a lot with my mom as well. Fell in love with Ryan and Marissa, and just became a fan. And because I was watching the OC, I didn't really watch much of One Tree Hill. And that's not to say I didn't have time to watch 2 shows, or I couldn't watch 2 teen dramas at the same time. I don't even know what my thinking was. I definitely didn't see it as some kind of weird rivalry like I did with Dawson's Creek and 90210. But I just didn't watch much of One Tree Hill. I remember knowing bits and pieces, maybe seeing bits and pieces. And then my first distinct memory of watching a full episode was when they had the school shooting episode. And next March of 2021 will mark 15 years from that episode airing. And I remember being so shocked by the ending of Dan killing Keith and immediately calling my friend afterward who also watched the show, and we expressed our shock and shed our tears. And I wasn't even a regular viewer. But from then on, I got kind of caught up over time. The show went to syndication on SoapNet, as did the OC, and that allowed me to see all the episodes that I missed. And I think, so the school shooting episode, season 3, season 5 is when I really started watching on a regular basis, which is kind of funny because season 5 was a shortened season due to the writer's strike, right? So there was less episodes to even watch, but the episodes that were there sucked me in because I thought the way they handled the 5-year time jump really worked really well, or I guess a 4-year time jump, excuse me, and they skipped over the college years, worked brilliantly, and I had sort of fallen in love with Lucas and Peyton, and one of a common characteristic or trait of the relationships that I love, it's those angsty moments when one person is pining for another and they can't be with them, the unrequited love, and seeing Peyton yearn for Lucas in season 5 just did a number on me. And then that spring, the spring of season 5, I was an intern at People magazine. So I went to school for journalism, and part of my graduation requirements was to complete essentially a residency. So the same way that doctors have to complete residencies after they learn the tools of the trade, which is really minimizing what doctors do, but they would go get real world experience through their residency. Now, a doctor residency is much longer than what I did, but I spent about 3 months on a journalism residency, and that means I worked full time for a publication, as did my classmates, because I knew that I loved pop culture and I knew I wanted to do entertainment journalism. I decided to do my residency at People magazine, and I was fortunate enough to receive that assignment. So I worked full time at People magazine for about 3 months, and one of the opportunities was to go to the CW up front. This was 2008, and I got to interview the cast of One Tree Hill, and I got to interview the cast of Gossip Girl, and this was also the year of what I call New 90210, the 90210 spinoff. And if you've ever read my posts, you know that I have a love-hate relationship with New 90210. But it was a really cool opportunity to meet these people. And later that year, I had an idea. I was really tired that no one in my life really shared this passion. I was obsessed with teen dramas, and I had people that I knew who watched casually, like that other One Tree Hill fan that I mentioned, but nobody that loved 90210 like I did, and nobody that liked reading about the genre like I did. And, you know, I was in deep, and I had so many thoughts in my head about these shows, about the new episodes, about the old episodes, about the similarities between the series, but about the differences, and I needed to get them out of my head. And so in late 2008, the idea came to start a blog, and of course make it about teen dramas. And since I called myself TeenDramaWhore, why not call it TeenDramaWhore? So I got a WordPress blog, and I called it TeenDramaWhore.com, and I started posting, just random thoughts about the shows and fun facts, and people started finding me. I had a Twitter account, so I would plug it on there. I think I plugged it on Facebook sometimes, and I started, developing a readership, which was really cool because I found my people. I found people that were fellow teen drama whores, even if they probably didn't call themselves that. People who knew the ins and outs of these shows like I did. And one of the things I started doing is that when One Tree Hill and Gossip Girl and New 90210 were on, I started live blogging them. So I'd be watching the show and I'd be typing away my commentary, my reactions. I tended to be very snarky. I still am. And people would follow along. I would repeatedly publish the blog throughout the episode, so people were getting updates. And then because I was getting trained to be an entertainment journalist at this point, I decided I want to do some interviews. I want to meet these people. I want to talk to these people. I want to pick their brains. And that happened. I think my first interview for TeenDramaWhore.com, which was with Michael Kudlitz, who played Tony on Beverly Hills 90210 and also had a role behind the scenes working on constructions and sets for the show. And I got an interview with him. And then I got an interview with Joe Manganiello, who played Owen on One Tree Hill. And things just started spiraling in the best way possible. I ended up interviewing cast members and behind the scenes people from all 6 of the shows: Beverly Hills 90210, Dawson's Creek, The OC, One Tree Hill, Gossip Girl, and New 90210. You cannot believe how starstruck I still feel today. Think about this. Go back to that 9-year-old kid who was watching Beverly Hills 90210 every week. And I would see names on the screen. I was also catching up on the first 6 seasons in syndication. And I would see a name like Charles Rosin, executive producer, Charles Rosin. I didn't know who that was. I didn't know what that meant. I didn't know what an executive producer did. But that name became ingrained in me over the years, right? And then one day, I got in touch with him in 2009, and he agreed to an interview. What kid has a favorite television show that they grow up watching and imagines that one day they're going to get to talk to the person who was the showrunner for that show? I still can't believe it. And not only did I interview him in 2009, in 2010, we met up in New York City for an in-person interview. And then later on, I think the following year, I met him and his wife, Karen, who worked also on the show, for lunch. It was just so surreal. It still is. And it's not something that I ever take for granted. Whether it's with Charles or anyone else that I've spoken to, it's just a really awesome experience that I've had. But here's where things went wrong. In 2010, I had graduated in 2009, 2010. I was working in my entertainment journalism career. I was actually interning at the time for a website. And it was really hard because I was commuting to Manhattan from my home, and it was like 90 minutes round trip, 5 days a week, so 3 hours a day, which takes a lot out of your day. And at night, I was doing TeenDramaWhore. And if I had a choice, I wanted to do TeenDramaWhore as my full-time job. But I never made any attempt to monetize the site. I didn't have, advertisers or sponsorships or anything. So like what I paid for my domain and my web hosting, just out of my own pocket, operated it at a loss. It's my passion, my hobby. It was never like a money-making scheme or anything like that. And if I knew that I could somehow support myself while doing it, I would have, gladly pursued that route. But it became clear that I was getting burnt out, and I was like 22 years old and burnt out, which is just ridiculous, right? So I just knew that something had to give, and unfortunately, it was something that I loved most. And the decision became a little bit easier, for better or worse, I should say, in the fall of 2010, when I was recruited by the New York Daily News to become one of their media producers. And I worked in the gossip vertical, so I was still doing entertainment journalism. And when I started, they made it very clear that if I was writing for the Daily News, they didn't want me writing for my blog too. They kind of saw it as some kind of conflict of interest. And I think today it's a lot more common for journalists to be employed somewhere and also kind of maybe have a side hustle, to have a blog, to have a podcast that isn't necessarily related to their day job. But in 2010, I guess it was less common. And they just did not want me to do both. If I was writing for the Daily News, they wanted it to be exclusive to them. And so I went on what I called a hiatus. Now, hiatus is a common word in the TV industry. It usually means some kind of break. And I didn't really say whether it was temporary or indefinite, forever, but it kind of marked the end, or what I thought was the end. And I was really sad to be saying goodbye to this community that I had built up and all the people that I regularly interacted with online every week about our favorite shows. And the only involvement that I still had was I continued to react to Gossip Girl and One Tree Hill and New 90210, but instead of live blogging, I would do live tweeting, and then it actually became not live tweeting. Like, just was hard to keep up. So I would watch and be constantly pausing to take notes, and then I would tweet out those notes in like a Twitter thread, or I would use the @TwitLonger. I don't even know if that's still around. And that's how I stayed engaged, but ultimately Gossip Girl ended, and 90210 ended, and One Tree Hill ended, and I just continued pursuing my career in entertainment journalism. And I would, still tweet stuff here and there about the genre, about these shows, but my activity on Twitter decreased greatly. And from 2010 to 2018, I worked a lot. If you're in journalism, particularly entertainment journalism, particularly in the internet age, where the news never sleeps, the internet is always on, and the race for clicks never ends, there's a lot of pressure to kind of always be on, to work around the clock. And I worked a very demanding schedule that over time became less and less fulfilling. And I started to think about the concept of work-life balance because I had none. I just worked, right? I worked 6 days a week. I worked day and night. I would have, it varied over the years, but I would have, let's say, Saturday night and all of Sunday off. Otherwise, I was working. And it made it very hard to have a social life and to ever leave my home, really. I guess I buried a bit of the lead here. In 2014, I moved to Wilmington, North Carolina, where Dawson's Creek and One Tree Hill were shot. And I'll talk about that more in the future, but I kept my same New York job. So I was still hustling and grinding. I had fortunately eliminated my commute because I was now working from home in Wilmington, but I just felt kind of chained to my computer. And again, I found myself burnt out. And at this point, I was only 31. So second period of burnout, and I'm barely into my 30s. And I decided, again, something had to change. And so I made the difficult decision to leave entertainment journalism behind. That was really hard because besides the teen dramas, I'm obsessed with pop culture in general. I'm obsessed with current events, media about the media, politics. I'm just very plugged into it all. And that was easy to be when it's kind of my job to be plugged in, right? I had to monitor social media and what all different sites and media outlets were reporting. And so it kind of just fueled my interest in those things. And now I needed to kind of take a step back from it. And so I joined a media company here in Wilmington, a publishing company, and transitioned to corporate communications. And the impact was immediate and phenomenal. All of a sudden, I didn't work nights anymore. All of a sudden, I had weekends off. All of a sudden, I had holidays off. I no longer had to work on Thanksgiving. And it was really, really awesome. And I've been there for a little over 2 years now. And here's where TeenDramaWhore gets back into the mix. So earlier this year, a guy named Pete, who I know many of you know, started talking to Charles Rosin himself and another producer, Larry Mullen, who I also interviewed back in my TeenDramaWhore.com days, and they decided to do a podcast about Beverly Hills 90210, a weekly podcast where they would look back at the series episode by episode. And I pretty much fell in love with it. I mean, I'm the ideal audience member or viewer for that type of thing. It's right up my alley, right? To have something about my favorite show and behind the scenes stories about how it was made. So of course I'm going to be interested in it. And in July, Charles or Larry, I don't remember which one of them it was, put me and Pete in touch. And I appeared on the podcast myself. I was discussing the season 6 finale, and it was a wonderful opportunity. And then I was on the podcast again in September for a really crazy episode that was about the Brenda, Dylan, Kelly love triangle. And there were Brenda and Dylan fans who made up the majority of the panelists. And there was me and another Kelly Dylan fan, and we're kind of going head to head and pleading our case for Kelly and Dylan, which is my all-time favorite couple of any TV show, teen drama or not, or Brenda and Dylan. And then later in September, I did a pre-record for another segment of the podcast that actually hasn't aired yet about the teen dramas and how 90210 set the blueprint for the genre. And I kind of went through the history of the genre, starting with 90210, and gave examples of how things 90210 did first were then replicated by these other shows. And when we finished that pre-record in late September, I was sitting where I'm sitting now, and I felt like, gosh, I could talk all night about this. I have so much more to say, and I really want to say it. And at this point, from 2010, when TeenDramaWhore.com stopped, to 2020, I kind of resisted temptations to restart it. Anytime someone asked me about it, I would say, like, maybe someday, and I knew that I had no intention of doing that. It just seemed impossible. I didn't know when I would have enough motivation, but I also know it really stemmed from fear. I feared that I would restart it, and again, my life would get crazy, and again, I would get burnt out, and again, this thing that means so much to me, the teen dramas, my passion, would start feeling like a burden or an obligation because I had this blog to maintain. So I just never seriously reconsidered restarting it until this night in September, where something lit up inside me, like a switch was flipped. And I realized this is my calling. And I think I would be a lot happier in my life if I answered it. And so that night, I decided I'm back. TeenDramaWhore is back. But I didn't tell anyone. Not even my parents, not my closest friends. No one knew. But I decided I was going to bring it back, but not use my old WordPress blog, not use TeenDramaWhore.com. I thought that to really make it feel like a new iteration, I wanted a different platform. And as I said, I was really interested in media. So I've been really reading a lot about Substack, which is a newsletter platform that's actually free to use. And instead of like posting on a blog, you're writing newsletters that are emailed out to people who sign up to read them. So I decided I'm going to try it this way, and hopefully people will sign up. And it wasn't about how many subscribers could I get, how big is my mailing list going to grow. It was about, I still have a lot to say about the genre. I really want to say it. I miss talking about it with fellow fans. I miss that community. Can I have that again? So I started writing on Substack, but I wasn't publishing anything yet. And I had a period of what I liken to like mania, where I was just fired up, ready to go, bouncing off the walls, could not sleep for days because I was filled with such excitement and so many ideas. I have a spreadsheet with idea after idea after idea after idea for posts. And it would be 3 a.m. and I would think of another one, and I would grab my phone and write it. And I just became so motivated to do this. And it was fun keeping it a little secret and kind of building up my portfolio of work before I went live. And I decided to go live on October 9th, just days after the 30th anniversary of 90210. And I did a post that TeenDramaWhore was back, and I explained kind of what I did here. Excuse me, my love for the genre, how TeenDramaWhore made me so happy, and then how it made me so stressed, and how I never thought I'd find my way back, but I did, and that I was committed to doing this again in a new format, with essays and trivia nights and Zoom chats with key players in the genre. And I got signups. People started signing up. People still cared about the teen dramas. People still cared about TeenDramaWhore, which was so flattering to learn how many people read my blog in 2008, 2009, 2010, and were still interested in what I had to say a decade later and signed up so that they could read my thoughts again. That is so flattering, and I say that from a place of humility and gratitude, because that support means the world to me. And on November 1st, I added another level on top of the regular free level that Substack offers, where I started offering premium subscriptions for $5 a month that comes with a whole bunch of perks. Let's talk about this. $5 a month. I want to just put this in perspective. For Starbucks, you can go there and get a drink for $5, right? People do that Monday through Friday. $25 a week, let's say, $100 a month. $100 a month. I'm talking about $5 a month. Think about that difference. Think about how much you spend on a daily day, That's a bit redundant. Every day on things that are novelties or luxuries or guilty pleasures, and how that adds up over a month, and compare that to what $5 a month breaks down to on a daily basis. And I want to be very clear about why I started offering a paid model. It's not about making money off of fans. It's not about, taking advantage of people. It's really about breaking even. You know, as I said before, I never monetized the original TeenDramaWhore.com. I still pay for it every year. So even though from 2010 to 2020, I wasn't writing anything, I still wanted the site to live. I still wanted to be able to go back and read anything that I wrote. I wanted other people to be able to read what I wrote. And I know that they did, because I would see the traffic. I would get new comments. I would see other outlets like Entertainment Weekly would suddenly link to me for an interview I had done years prior. I didn't want that to go away, which means I had to keep paying for it to live on the internet. So now I'm just trying to be flat, not have a loss, not necessarily seeking to get rich, but just let's cover my operation costs, let's cover the cost of maintaining the old site, let's cover some costs of advertising my newsletter and things like that. And I think in return, you as a teen drama whore yourself get some really cool opportunities. So in the description below, I'm going to put my essay explaining why I restarted Teen Drama Whore. I'm going to put my essay explaining the origins of my fandom, just kind of like I did here. And I'm also going to put some information about the premium subscription model. If you want to sign up, great. If you don't want to, great. There's still a lot of cool things that you can access if you just sign up on the free plan. But I do want to note that for the holidays, I'm running a 20% off special right now. So you can get a annual premium subscription at a discounted price, which is really cool. And that's actually going to end on December 25th. Why December 25th? because it's Donna Martin's birthday. Like, that's a good reason to do it, right? And here's a really good reason to sign up over the next few days for a premium subscription. This is a really big full circle moment. I explained how I'm still not over the fact that I got to interview and meet and hang out with the producer of my favorite television show, Charles Rosin, in 2009, 2010, and we've stayed in touch over the last decade. Well, now's your chance to meet him too. It's your chance to talk to him. It's your chance to ask him questions. And that's because on Monday, November 14th, I'm hosting a Zoom chat. This is not a public opportunity to take part in it. You do have to be a premium subscriber to TeenDramaWhore. So again, $5 buys you a ticket, let's say, if you want to put it that way. And you're going to get to ask him your questions. What you want to know about Beverly Hills 90210. And it's not going to be me asking them on your behalf unless you want me to. You are actually going to get to speak to Charles Rosin yourself and ask him questions. This has not been done before with him or with any teen drama producer that I know of. It's not meant to be for 50 people, right? Because then it's not intimate. It's not a place where everybody gets to talk. I'm just looking for a small group of people who want to get to have the same feeling I've had of, oh my God, I'm talking to the person that provided me with so much happiness for all these years of my life. So again, that's taking place this Monday, December 14th at 8 p.m. Eastern Time on Zoom. And you're only going to get the Zoom link sent to your email on Monday morning if you sign up for a TeenDramaWhore premium subscription. So how do you do that? You go to teendramawhore.substack.com/subscribe. And I'll also put that in the links below. And all the information is right there. As for these videos going forward, I don't know how often I'm going to do them, if there's going to be any kind of set schedule or routine or things like that. We'll see how it goes. I don't even know how this one is going, if people are going to watch it, if I'm going to cringe watching it back. I know I'm going to cringe watching it back. I get to be on the 90 News podcast sometimes, which is Pete's spinoff from his main Beverly Hills 90210 podcast. And I actually recorded earlier today with them. And every time I watch it back, I'm shocked by how I sound, shocked by how I look, miserable with myself. So I imagine that's going to be the case here too. But if I can get over those insecurities and my self-esteem issues, which I have a lot of, I'm going to start doing these. And I think maybe I'll just talk, see how it goes. Maybe I'll talk about the essays that I write and what inspired me to write them, why I chose to look at that particular teen drama issue. We'll see. I don't know. Maybe this will be a massive failure and I'll never do another one again. I don't know. But if you want to see more, just maybe put something in the comments so I know that 3 people out there like this. I don't know. But if you do like this, it would be great to know that so I'm not wondering. And yeah, again, I want to thank Leslie for encouraging me to make this video. I know she wants many more videos. We'll see. I want to thank Pete for doing a project that, I don't want to say rekindled my love for 90210 or the genre, because that love never went away. That passion never went away. I just wasn't paying enough attention to that part of my life. But he sparked something in me. He is so good at what he does that I wanted to get back in the game too. Not as a competitor. I will never be Pete's competitor. But as a co-conspirator, as a friend, as a collaborator, as someone who says, you're doing something cool about my favorite show, I can do something cool about 6 of my favorite shows. Let's see how this goes. And I want to thank Charles for not thinking it was weird 10, 11 years ago when a fan reached out to him. I mean, he probably didn't think it was weird, let's be clear. But you know, letting this random girl talk to him and letting her have a dream come true And even this Monday, when we speak to him again, it'll be another dream come true. So a lot of people have played small roles in this journey, in this story, and I know I'm just mentioning a couple of them now, and there's so many more people I could talk about, and maybe one day I will. But I just figured it was time to explain who I am, what my background is. I know I seem to some people like I'm new on the scene, but I go back, way back with my old blog and things like that. So hopefully this provided some clarity. And if you have questions or you just want to talk, I love talking about with fellow fans, whether it's on Twitter, Facebook, email, whatever. I don't have Instagram. I just love hearing from people, and I love bonding with people who love the same thing I do. So feel free to reach out anytime, and maybe I'll talk to you guys again soon. Bye.